sunshiny morning in West Palm, where Thom Loverro is. It never rains in southern Florida except once a day, and it's not raining right now, right, Thom?
It is as clear as a day. It's beautiful. Blue sky. I'm at the ballpark. You know, the Nats are playing in Jupiter today, so they're not here. Mm-hmm. But they share this facility with the Astros, and the Astros are hosting the Braves today at a 1 o'clock game.
Nice. So
they're getting the stadium ready for that game here.
We're going to talk to Mike Rizzo, the general manager of the Nationals, coming up at 10:30. But bringing in our new friend, Adam Zielonka, who covers the Capitals for the Washington Times. And Capitals are playing this afternoon, as you hear it right here on 106.7 The Fan, beginning at 12:15 as they take on the Rangers. They've just concluded a road trip at 3-3. And, Adam, I'm going to ask you about a comment that Todd Reardon made after the game, trotting out the E word, effort. Well, he didn't use it in this quote. It's pretty clear where he's going. He says about the trip, 3-3. It sums up our game overall for the last while. The inconsistency. We've had a couple of games on this trip where we had everybody all in and really solid effort. Tonight, I didn't feel like it was the case. It's too difficult a league to win in if you don't have everybody playing at their best ability. So that's something we're going to need Sunday to have success. Is he feeling that this team is starting to hit the wall? Is it starting to feel like, okay, this is routine, we're going to be back in the Stanley Cup Finals again, nothing to worry about? What's your take on what he said yesterday?
Well, inconsistency is a good way to sum up the Capitals' 6-game road trip as well as their season to this point. And it doesn't sound to me like Coach Todd Reardon is self-assured that the Capitals will make it back to the Cup. Mm-hmm. There's good things to look at from this road trip, 6 games, 12 days, longest trip that they've had this season, and there's some poor things to take away. And I'm sure we'll talk about the trades in a second. The trades notwithstanding, This team beat the San Jose Sharks, one of the best teams in the West. They beat the Toronto Maple Leafs, both those games on the road. But then they also dropped games to teams like the Ducks and yesterday against the Sabres, who are middle of the road or worse in terms of the NHL. I would have figured they could win 4, if not 5, of a 6-game road trip if they were playing at 100%.
Mm-hmm. Thom?
Adam, was there more of an expectation, and tell me if I'm wrong, of a step-up season for Kuznetsov, that he was poised to become an elite offensive player day in and day out in this league? And has he failed to do that?
Yes, I'd say there was an expectation back in October and November. He had a really hot start to the regular season and really seemed to be picking up where he left off in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I would have voted for him for player of the postseason over Ovechkin if I had my way, or if I had a vote on it. But Ovechkin won that. And Kuznetsov was on fire in the postseason. He had a really, really hot start, both assists and goal scoring. And we were asking him as recently as October and November, do you think you have capability to be like a top 5 player in the NHL? He said something along the lines of, I don't really have the work ethic to do that. I don't want to work 365 days. And he's a very honest guy. He's a very honest guy about that. He said that to us, and I found it fascinating at the time.
Wow.
And he hit a slump shortly thereafter. In December and January, he had a long scoring slump. He seemed to be picking it back up after the break along with the rest of the team. But there was a reason Todd Reardon dropped him to the third line in the middle of that slump. You wouldn't have think of Kuznetsov as a third line center when you remember what he was able to do in the past. So he's definitely streaky. He's my best answer for that, Thom.
Yeah, that's interesting, because earlier on, Alex Ovechkin was perceived as that. Well, he never said anything like that. There was discussion that he didn't come into camp in the best of shape, and he liked to party a lot, and winning the cup, erased all of that. But, maybe there needs to be a sit-down between the two Russians on that, huh?
Maybe. We know Ovechkin and Kuznetsov are close. We also know that the general manager has made comments during the season that, not out-and-out criticizing Kuznetsov, but expressing a tad bit of disappointment that he's not always on top of his game. Things like McClellan saying things like, he can be one of the best players in the league if he chooses to be.
Interesting. Wow. We're talking to Adam Zielonka, covers the Caps for the Washington Times. Yes, the trades, they made 2 of them last couple of days. They get Carl Hagelin from the Kings, offensive player, and defenseman Nick Jensen. Why the 2 trades, and are they through? Are there going to be more deals to be made before tomorrow's deadline?
Yeah, this roster has seen a lot of shakeup since the last time I was able to talk to you guys. It's a completely different looking team. They had to move Devontae Smith-Pelly down to the minors to make room for these two guys. To make room at least for the first trade that they had of acquiring Carl Hagelin from the Los Angeles Kings. And every Capitals fan knows the name Carl Hagelin because in the middle of the season he was traded to LA from the Pittsburgh Penguins, everyone's hated rival. He won 2 Stanley Cups with the Penguins. And he was before that with the Rangers, so it's a fascinating stat to me that he was on the team that eliminated the Capitals from the playoffs for 5 straight postseason appearances, 2012, 13, and 15 while he was with the Rangers, and then 2016 and 17, those dreaded Pittsburgh series where they lost to Pittsburgh. Yeah. So that's funny. Hagelin he made his team debut yesterday. He skated 12 minutes, got some looks on the penalty kill where the team, both Reardon and McLellan, have said we see him helping our penalty kill. And that was an area of concern for them in the middle of the season. He's that kind of guy. He like you said, he's an offensive player just in a name only. He's a forward, but he's not a huge goal scorer. Goal scoring is not an area the Capitals necessarily needed help, but he's going to be a speedy guy, a guy who can help on the penalty kill and on defense more stuff. They acquired him from Los Angeles after they waived Devontae Smith-Pelly in a bit of a surprise move. Smith-Pelly cleared waivers, and I was a little bit surprised by that because he has this reputation of bringing it in the postseason, and I thought maybe a team who's heading toward the postseason knows they're going to make it would pick him up. He's got a cheap contract. Anyway, he now is going to be reporting to the AHL Hershey Bears. Now, the second trade was Nick Jensen, defenseman from the Detroit Red Wings. He's expected to make his debut today here at Capital One against the New York Rangers, team debut. He was a top 4 defenseman for Detroit. I think at least for today, they're going to slot him in, if I had to predict, slot him in on the third pairing with Brooks Orpik, just for his first game to get him acclimated. It's something Todd Reardon likes to talk about, setting people up in a good position to succeed when they're new, whether that's a rookie, whether that's a call-up from Hershey, or whether that's a new acquisition like this guy. But they believe in Nick Jensen long-term because shortly after trading for him from Detroit, they extended his contract for 4 years. I don't know if there's going to be any more trades, by the way, to answer the last part of your question. Yeah. We were all holding our breath seeing if they would move Andre Burakovsky, but that doesn't seem to be in the cards now anymore. Trade deadline obviously being February 25th, tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. Thom?
So they're not going to trade Burakovsky unless they feel they get some value.
Right.
Not that they're reluctant to trade him. They're just not going to give him away, probably, right?
Probably not, and he's had his moments where he can pop in and have a goal. He had a 3-game scoring streak at one point in January, and I thought, I don't know, is this going to raise his trade value? Maybe they're going to get the level of draft pick that they're looking for him if they wanted to offload him. Maybe that wasn't there. There's speculation they were talking with some Canadian teams like Vancouver and I believe Edmonton for him. But as of right now, all quiet on the Burakovsky front. And you're right; they're not going to just give him away for nothing, because he's heading into his restricted free agent summer at the end of this season. So they could just hold on to him. And if he's slumping in the playoffs, they don't have to play him.
Exactly. He's a disappointment, but he's not a burden.
Right.
His presence is not necessarily an issue. Andy brought up what Todd Reardon, the coach, talked about with effort, and you tell me if I'm wrong about this. My impression is traditionally that Barry Trotz had gotten that team to the point where the players would call themselves out publicly about effort, and the coach wouldn't really have to at some point. Have any of the players basically echoed what Reardon said recently?
Offhand, I'm not entirely sure. I wasn't on this 6-game road trip as nice as it would have been to go to California in February. I was over here covering some other things for the Times. But in the meantime, trying to think back, I don't think that some of these players are going to regress necessarily away from doing that. There's a lot of accountability among individuals I can think of. Always accountable guys like Braden Holtby is accountable. Ovechkin is accountable. John Carlson is a good example, I think, too. Matt Niskanen is accountable. There's going to be accountability in that room. If one of us reporters were to ask, is there no effort right now, or is the effort lacking in certain areas of this room? That might be a tricky answer to extricate from somebody to get them to spit it out, depending on how we would phrase the question. But we'll have to see first. First, we'll have to see how they play against the Rangers today. They're at home again Tuesday. And if the troubles continue, they're at home on Tuesday. They're hosting the worst team in the NHL, the Ottawa Senators. If they can't win that, that's a red flag this late in the season. And it could be a question of effort at that point, we'd have to say.
Yeah. Well, look, chasing the New York Islanders, which is, so ironic that Barry Trotz is there. I just wonder, internally, if there's that little bit of, gee, we can't let this guy beat us out with a team that, wasn't expected to go anywhere this year. Or is it just, like this is a team that's been in the playoffs every year. The seeding doesn't really seem to matter. And the regular season really at this point for a team like this isn't maybe what it seems. The sense of urgency maybe isn't really what it should be at this point. What do you think?
Everything you said just now, Andy, has some truth to it for sure. First, with the Islanders, somebody wrote a really beautiful script where Barry Trotz brings the Islanders to first place, and they're still in first place in the division this late in the year, ahead of the Capitals. Pretty crazy. With regards to the playoffs, there's not many teams that have the experience of going all the way, and now the Capitals have that and can say they've done that. We need to see if they can replicate that once April rolls around. But they're in playoff position right now. It's just that there's a cluster of teams right behind them in the Metro Division that are going to be challenging. I don't think we talk about this enough as a society in Washington. It's really funny to me right now that Pittsburgh Penguins are on the outside of the playoff picture with 20 games to go. If the season ended today, I think it looks like, to me in the standings, they'd be the ninth team in the East and be on the outside looking in. But the Penguins, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Columbus Blue Jackets are all challenging right behind Washington. There's really no room for error because there's no playoff position is locked up yet for any of these teams. Not for Washington. Yeah. Maybe for the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's the best team in hockey right now. That they're the only team that can play it safe right now. The Capitals can't afford to not bring the effort in the regular season and just say, we'll be fine when we make the playoffs because there's 5 teams in the Metro Division that are challenging for those 3 guaranteed spots in the division. Yeah. But, the Penguins, the Capitals, they've combined for the last 3 Stanley Cups. There's not a lot of teams in hockey that have been able to pull it all together in the spring and the summer. And we're going to see now who else is going to be able to do that, or if the Capitals will be able to reach back 12 months prior and pull out those intangibles and really be able to make a push. It's not like this team is all that different from last year's in terms of regular season, because I saw a really cool chart tracking last year's standings points game by game to this year's, and the lines are so close. They practically mirror each other. They're in the same spot right now that they were last year.
Yeah, well,
and they showed you don't have to win a President's Trophy in order to win a Stanley Cup.
No, President's Trophies don't work out well here. So, maybe that's the best position for them to be in. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me again, guys.
Thank you, Adam.
Good talk.
That's Adam Zielonka, covers the Capitals for the Washington Times. And again, a 12:30 face-off today against the New York Rangers. Coverage starts in 2 hours here on 106.7 The Fan. Lots to come in the meantime. Mike Rizzo, general manager of the Nats, will join us at 10:30. And next we'll get to the comments of Anthony Rendon about his long-term future here. Oh, boy.